And the rest was
Herstory.
Film history.
amazing. Okay, hello everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to the.
The rest is film history.
Okay.
You were pointing at me. I was like, why?
I'm still getting used to the title. It's exciting though that
Yeah.
we finally have.
We have a name.
We decided
have a
on
name
it.
decided.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
And you want to talk about why we decided on that name?
Because it sounds cool.
Yeah. What else?
Was there any other reason? I don't
know. I think honestly, we were just throwing out a bunch of names, and I think
Yeah.
we were trying to use something that was like already
Copyrighted.
a thing,
Yeah.
and just work like the word movie or film into it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I guess we
and
focus
several really
on
bad puns later.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
We were
that's
here.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we get to dig into history,
That's-
film history.
Yeah.
And
And the
talk
rest.
about history in the making. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing. So, this episode is my turn
Yes.
in choosing a topic.
Yes.
And I decided to look into the 3-color trilogy films,
Yes.
which I was just very excited about.
Because you hadn't seen these before, which I didn't know until a couple of days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I had a friend mention how like he recently watched these movies, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I guess like I was intrigued by the idea of having color as the title, and then like a whole movie surrounding that.
Yeah.
And then we watched it.
Yes. We watched, so there's 3 of them. We watched White together, and then there's Blue.
Which is
and
the
Red.
second film.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is the second one.
Yeah.
And then you guys watched Blue and some of Red. You watched all 3.
Yeah.
I watched some of Blue and some of Red.
We
Yes.
got varying,
Yeah, varying levels of, yeah.
Experiences.
Yeah. I was committed, and we were just like, he was pretty committed, and I was like not committed. So,
But we worked through it
yeah,
with what we got.
we did. We did.
So, have you guys heard of this film before?
I feel like I've heard the name.
Uh-huh.
3 Colors Trilogy.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I have. I don't remember what the context was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like in my head I knew that these were really like revered movies.
Yeah.
But I knew absolutely nothing about them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was kind of the same where I'd heard of it on like different YouTube videos or whatever. I kind of, for some reason, I confused it with In the Mood for Love. I don't know why, but just like I think the red or something like that, because there's a lot of red in that movie. Is that right?
The poster is red base,
Okay,
but
that's probably it. I don't know, but yeah, I remember I've heard that people really love these movies.
yes. So this is a movie that is directed by I was practicing trying to say his name.
Literally before, yeah.
Michael, if you want to. Krzysztof?
Not even gonna try the last name.
Yeah,
not even gonna attempt it. Krzysztof.
I think it's Krzysztof. I'm not even sure if his first name is Krzysztof, but it's spelled very cool. It's a Polish name.
Were you-
Kieślowski?
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 Something like that. We're literally
I
butchering
don't
it
know.
so
You
much.
should have watched a video of someone saying.
We
I
did
was.
several
I was
times.
practicing
Yeah.
Wait,
right
oh,
before
really?
this.
Before you got here, yeah.
Oh wow, I was not paying attention.
But still, I couldn't.
It's
Sorry
okay.
to that man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll do better. So I was looking into this. Well, I kind of wanted to like watch the films, not really really knowing anything. So I watched 3 films. Well, I did like do a brief research, and I didn't know that it was three of the colors, red, white, and blue, comes from the French national flags, which did you know that each color represented something for the flag?
So
the
you were,
French flag.
I did not.
yeah, you were telling us before. It's what do they stand for?
So blue is for liberty, white is equality, and red is fraternity. Fraternity? Like in college.
Yeah. You got it.
That's my context. And each film deals with the issue presented by the color of the French flag. And so the first film, Blue, should I just like go into the film or himself? I'm not sure.
Both? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into both. So he had made several films prior to doing this trilogy. He's a Polish director, screenwriter. He's the most notably known projects he's worked on is Decalogue, 1989.
Okay.
The
I've seen
Double
that
Life
one.
of Veronique, 1991. And then the Three Color Trilogy, which was 1993 to 1994. And he had passed away 2 years after the trilogy had come out.
So
96.
Okay.
Yeah. March 1996. He was born in June 27th, which is 10 days from now, from the day we were shooting. Fun fact.
Yeah.
He in 2002, he was listed at number 2 on the British Film Institute's Sight and Sound list. And 2007, Total Film Magazine ranked him the 47th 47th rank on the 100 greatest film directors ever.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
I would also like to, because you said the Decalogue. That was I watched it for one of my classes in college, and it was like a 10-part TV miniseries on like the if it's the same one I watched, it's each one is on one of the 10 commandments and like breaking one of the 10 commandments, and so it's kind of similar to this where it's like each one is a separate story, and I don't think they cross over, but each one is like has like a thematic kind of thing behind it.
So that's his thing, I guess.
How old was he when he made?
He died at
Color?
54.
Yeah, 50,
So
So
in his 50s.
Yeah,
it's a little older, yeah.
Which is young.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
young to die. Yeah, it's definitely young to die.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
So the first one, Blue, 1993. Liberty was the theme that it was based off of. So like when you think of liberty, you think about like freedom, right?
Yes.
So I guess actually let me read the synopsis.
Yeah.
The first part of how do you say it? His last name.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna try anymore.
Yeah.
So the first part of his trilogy on the France's national motto, liberty, equality, and fraternity, Blue is the story of Julie, who loses her husband, an acclaimed composer, and her younger daughter in a car accident. The film's theme of liberty is manifested in Julie's attempt to start new life, free of personal commitments, belonging, grief, or love. She intends to numb herself by withdrawing from the world and living completely independently, blah, 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 in solitude in Parisian city. Despite her intentions, people from her former and present life intrude with their own needs. However, the reality created by people who need and care about her surprising discovery in the music around which the film revolves heal Julie and draws her back to the land of living. So it was interesting. So like the story is like surrounded by like the freedom aspect, liberty, but like freedom from self in a way, or like freedom from others, I guess. Because in the beginning of the film, she goes through, this car accident where she loses her family, and she is trying to detach herself from a lot of things. And yeah, there's a very, not only like color wise, there's like blue lighting, blue objects.
She goes swimming a lot.
She goes swimming a lot in the blue pool.
Yeah.
Did you notice those things watching it?
You know, I feel like those are kind of subtle. Like, it's definitely not hitting you over the head with those things, at least in terms of the dialogue. I think it's more so in how you see herself trying to cope with. And I think now that you explain that, I see it more because especially with the... Yeah, it's interesting, though, because that approach that she takes of detaching and numbing herself and an attempt at liberty isn't really freeing, you know?
Yeah.
But even, like, yeah, the first thing that she does when she gets back from the hospital is basically sell everything that they owned. They sell everything. She, like, basically tries to avoid contact with anyone that she knew before the accident. And then when you see her move into the new apartment that she gets, she asks, like, she wants to make sure that there's no children who live there. Like, she doesn't even want to be around kids because she lost her daughter, and she wants to know where like, she's completely running and avoiding from her grief.
Yeah.
And so I definitely see all of that. I thought one of the most heartbreaking scenes is, like, she'd go to the pool a lot when she got stressed and just swim. And she went mostly at night, I think, which makes sense because she didn't want to be around other people. But there was one time where she was swimming there during the day, and like a whole bunch of kids, almost like it's like a summer camp or like a swim team or something, but a whole bunch of kids start jumping in the pool, and you see, like, she's so distraught by being around all those kids.
Yeah.
So I think she was just trying to, like, remove any memory of anything
Yeah.
to avoid any pain at all. And I think the music was something in the movie that I was trying to figure out while I was watching it, where she'd be having a conversation with someone, or she'd, like, something would happen and the screen would fade to black and you'd hear music for a few seconds and then it would just come back into the scene. And I never understood, like, I was trying to understand, like, what exactly was happening there. I don't know if you know.
No, I'm not sure. I do remember reading this, like, idea of, like, how, like, important the music piece was in the film, because, like, you have to, like, make music with others, or, like, this, like, her attempt to, like, be detached from people, but then, like, these things keep happening where, like, she ends up, like, creating that music piece with that guy, or, like, finishing her husband's music, right? Is that what that was happening?
I was wondering, while I was watching, I was wondering if maybe she would hear her husband's music at times, like in moments where she was remembering him or
maybe.
something. I don't know if that's what it was.
Like the scene, that specific scene wise, yeah. Yeah,
potentially. I have a question for you, and I don't know where to slot this in, so I'm just going to ask it now. Is, because we talked about it, the director was Polish, right? Was he like a French, citizen? Like, what does this have to do with France specifically?
That's a great question that I was also wondering.
Okay,
got it.
We'll find out someday.
Yeah.
Right?
Someone else can do the research.
Yeah. Michael, put it on the screen.
I was wondering that too, because I realized that 2 films were set in France. Well, then one, it felt like maybe it was set somewhere else, but and then one was in, well, half and half, I guess.
White. You're talking about White? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly in Poland, I think. Is the
Because he
end?
goes back.
Yeah. Is the end in France? I guess we'll get to it when we, like, review the movie, I guess. But is the end in France? Do you know that bit with the woman, his wife?
Like when in Distance they were talking?
No. Like when he goes back to her when she goes back to her hotel room and he's there.
I think that's still in Poland.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because she was like, "Let me get my passport. I'm a French citizen."
You're right. Yeah.
But what did you think about Blue in terms of the theme with liberty?
Yeah.
Because I think to me it seems like the point was almost that, like, I think it's really wrapped up in everything she was trying to do that she thought was freedom, but really, like, it was kind of clear to see you're really not free at all.
Right,
Like, if
right.
you have to avoid kids so that you
Yeah.
don't, it's like basically shutting out things and thinking that that's freedom is a lack of, like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. You know, I feel like sometimes you watch a movie and like you just don't agree. It's like, no, that's
Yeah.
not how you actually heal. That's how I
Yeah,
felt.
yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
felt with Julie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Is it that she comes to a knowledge of that though? Like she has an arc? Because again, I haven't finished it, but is it that she comes to,
I guess toward the end when she was like working on that piece.
Yeah,
With
I think so.
someone.
Yeah, because like, he had music. Her husband that he was working on that he didn't get the chance to finish, and she tried to destroy, like, the piece he was working on.
yeah.
But her husband's friend, who I guess is also a composer or something, who's in love with her, was trying to finish the piece. And I think he kind of helps her come out, which that relationship was kind of interesting to me because I don't know that I ever really felt like she actually really loved him or
Right.
actually.
In the end,
It almost felt to me, at least in the beginning, she was
Yeah.
kind of using him
Right.
as an escape for her pain
Right,
in some
right.
ways. Like anytime she would call him, I'd be like, this poor guy. Like she's totally just like, he actually likes her.
Yeah.
And she's totally. But so I don't know if at the end it sounds like maybe it gets to somewhere where it was more sincere, but I don't know that I.
the phone call right before she went to him, that was like, do you love me? And then I think he said that he loved her.
Yeah.
He was like, and then she was like, are you alone? And he was like, yeah, of course.
They asked
Maybe that was her trying to like accept love back into her life, maybe because she had shut it down. She didn't.
Right. It
I
was the
wonder if
music,
part
that
of it, like,
relationship.
there's so much pain that came from love and loss because she loved so much. So I think maybe she was trying to remove herself from, like, she didn't want to love anyone or be attached to anyone.
Yeah.
And so maybe that was her at the end, like, allowing love back into her life, you know? But,
Yeah.
You had a thought?
Oh, you were just sharing that she asked, "Are you alone?" I remember of the 30 minutes that I saw of Red, they asked that a lot. I think the boyfriend asked that of the
Yeah.
of Valentine.
Let me go into White and Red now.
Yeah.
So White was the second film that came out 1994, toward the beginning of the year, and the theme that it's trying to like grapple with is equality, which I was looking up like definitions to these words too. Equality, the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, opportunities. And it's interesting. So it's also like there's these like the color specifically like is tied into these words, but the films not necessarily go about it in a way that's like very direct. Because like even with equality, at first I think about like social justice or like, you know, those kind of equality. But like this film actually was like tackling that by a revenge story, which was interesting. And out of the three, White is more have like a comedic touch to it. As well as like the white being like a lighter color. There was more like this like flowy, you know, it's like less heavy than the other two.
yeah.
And then we also saw like the theme of that color throughout the film.
So
we
where
watched
does
this together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does the theme of equality come in?
I think from revenge. It's like the main guy
Oh,
was like
getting equal.
yes.
Yeah, getting even.
Okay.
I think that's what
That might
it
be
was
it.
going for.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because I was reflecting on it, and I couldn't tell because both characters were so crazy to me, like the main characters.
Oh, yeah.
In this relationship, I will say this movie grabbed me a lot more and held my attention than other ones, I think, because the second, like in the beginning, they're in this relationship, and it starts with them getting a divorce, basically, in a courtroom. And the woman, I guess through the divorce, like the guy loses his money, he has nowhere to go, kind of things like that. and he's a barber.
Yeah.
And I guess they maybe had a barber shop together or like a hair salon. So he goes there and she like comes and she's like, oh, I'm going to call the cops. You can't be here or something. And then they start like about to have sex basically like that almost.
Yeah.
And then she sets the curtains on fire. And so she was just so crazy. And I was like, immediately I was so interested.
Yeah.
But so both characters felt like they had a crazy side to them.
Yeah.
Because the way that he gets revenge is so wild.
Should we spoilers for now, or I don't know?
I think so.
Skip this.
But
part
I will
if
say
you
I'm not
don't
going to
want
say how he gets revenge. But
okay.
At the end, just reflecting, I'm like, is this a revenge story or is this some crazy love story? Because the guy is
It's probably
still,
both.
It's kind of both.
It's a bit of both because he gets revenge, but almost as a way of like, I love you, kind of.
Right.
Because he gets revenge and then she's fully into it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And they're just both kind of crazy. This movie was so intriguing though.
Yeah.
It felt like so many things kept happening that kept taking my attention that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
Like both characters, because of their actions, I felt like I never knew what they were going to do. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently that last bit, the scene where she like is signing things to him, was added 6 months after.
Whoa.
Oh,
Because
wow.
originally the storyline didn't have like a closure or like a really like happening to them.
Yeah.
So they added that scene. I don't know if the 6 months part is accurate, but
After.
yeah, it was just like added after as like to tie the stories together.
That's super interesting because I feel like that really like adds such an interesting wrinkle to the story.
Right.
Where it's like it's kind of plain revenge at first with like other other added stuff in there, but then like that she still loves him.
Yeah, but that's like almost their thing. Like
that's
like
definitely.
you do that and it's like, oh, I love you more. Like you're,
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then the third film, Red, 1994.
Did you have anything you want to say about White or
White
anything?
more?
Were we planning on like fully reviewing them after we were doing that structure? Or are we kind of like reviewing them now while you
We
do
can
this?
do whatever we want.
How about
That's true. It is our podcast. Yeah.
How about you go to Red and then we'll
Okay,
yeah.
add more. Because we can even talk like the
As
whole
a
movie.
collective,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Red was a film that also came out in 1994, the latter half of the year. And
Did they shoot these back to back?
that I don't know.
Okay.
The word that it was like focusing on is fraternity, which online says definition, a group of people sharing a common profession or interests. So this one, let's see. The idea is like how there are these like different characters who live in completely different worlds. One being a model, one being a retired judge, and like more characters that seem like they won't cross paths, but then like there's this one, situation, a trigger where like the Valentine runs over this dog and then the dog owner is the judge, and that like, triggers a whole new friendship relationship. And then eventually as we see the film, we see these like different characters like intermingling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess like when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I saw that in a way.
So sorry, what does RED stand for?
Fraternity. Group of people
That
sharing
makes sense.
common profession or interests.
That makes sense, yeah.
This film was a film that was nominated for they were nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, which it didn't win any of those. But yeah. Let me see. Someone was talking about just how like the film Red returns the same level of thoughtfulness and filmmaking expertise that Blue displayed, because they was saying that like White didn't. Which it's interesting. I feel like what I was reading online and just like through research, the criticism was that like they thought Red and Blue had more like intentional efforts and like I don't know, maybe the visual storytelling or character, and White was like in the middle connecting the two. But then like our experience, whether it fits because like we watched White together and we had all that like feedback going on. But I don't know. I loved all three. Yeah. But I really liked White a lot.
I thought White was so fun.
White
like,
was so interesting.
Intrigued.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely want to finish Red.
Me too. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, very different tones to like Blue and White, and so I think sometimes I feel like critically too, like I feel like comedies or something like those aren't going to be recognized for
definitely
things or critically acclaimed like a more serious drama that's like really insightful and trying to say something like
but it was also like revenge-y. Like White was like a genre-y, like thriller-y kind of thing. And I think that's kind of less respected.
Yeah, it wasn't just like straight comedy or anything.
Yeah, no.
Right.
But yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like I get that. I guess like in like current films, I definitely tend to like lean toward the serious films as like a personal taste.
Yeah.
But like in general, it's like comedy also brings in this like way to like communicate a theme in a very pleasant way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that same thing of like we're looking to be entertained by a comedy movie, and then the best ones actually like make us think about ourselves or the human condition or whatever that kind of like that idea of like the best kind of art does, where it's like thought provoking. I think.
Or even the ones that are like have a more serious tone can also be pretty funny too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But so I know another thing when we were watching White that was so enjoyable is the movies have totally different storylines, different main characters, but they are connected. And there are little moments where there's like Easter eggs of like people might walk by just down this on the street, like behind another person in another movie. So like in White, they start off in the courtroom, and in Blue, the main character Julie is going to the courthouse because she finds out that her husband was having an affair with this like legal assistant or
Yeah.
And so she's going to the courthouse to try and confront her. And she walks, like she opens the door to a courtroom really quick and they kind of like push her out. But in White, they're starting off in the courtroom scene and you see her open the door and it's to their it was so
so good.
And that was so early on in the movie. So immediately also I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And now I'm paying attention because I'm trying to see what else is from the other movie.
No, I was like listening to one of his interviews and an interviewer was asking him like, you trust a lot or you have a lot of faith in your audience thinking that they're gonna find these Easter eggs like why do you do that kind of thing? And I feel like the way the interviewer was saying was like they're dumb, like why are you doing this? But I think it's cool that like he knows how to engage the audience that way and he knows how satisfying it is like for us like when we make those like connections, like when a story gives you everything it's like not interesting, you know. Like I think that's one of the reasons why like live action Disney films have a harder time. We already know the story, but that's another conversation. I love live action films, but it can be hard to like keep us entertained.
It's such an interesting thing. I don't think I've seen another like set of movies that are like together but just very loosely connected like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like separate stories happening in the same place and they're acknowledging that this is happening in the same place and you might just cross paths with other people.
The same cinematic world.
Right.
Yeah.
But different stories.
But not like you're going to team up like the Avengers or anything and be like very involved in each other's. But like acknowledging it's just so interesting to have, because it is like that in real life. Like somebody that I don't know who maybe like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, just small impacts that they can have on different things. Even I don't know, because I need to finish Red, but I didn't quite catch if there's anything that connects to
There
other
is.
ones.
You have to watch it to the end to see it, though.
I do.
Okay.
But even there were some moments like where she's talking to her boyfriend on the phone in the beginning, and he's like, "Oh, I just came back from Poland," and I think he said something about their luggage going missing.
Oh,
I heard that too.
And I was like, because there were those guys in white. Who like was stealing luggage, and I'm like, were those his bags? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
No, probably.
That could be totally wrong.
No, I think
but it was things like
he's
that.
intentional like that.
Yeah. But it was things like that where I'm like, it's so interesting just to see the connections that happen in life where it's like they have no idea that's a connection. But I think we have so many connections with people, and I think we can feel removed a lot of times from other people's lives that are strangers. But just seeing the little things that, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very cool. Like the idea of like all these stories are kind of happening simultaneously, and like the characters don't really have much knowledge of any of the others.
And to know like how much, because I think a lot of times we don't think about, like if you walk by someone on the street, you're not thinking, oh, that's like a fully fledged human who has a whole life. Like we so think about our own problems, relationships, situations.
Yeah.
But everyone's life is like that.
Yeah.
And so to see like how just in passing these people are so loosely connected.
Yeah.
But they each have their own insane life going on, you know, or own battles with grief or own, you know, things.
Weird revenge
that was
things.
So I feel like it was really displaying that kind of, it was really thought provoking.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I agree. I feel like that's why you never can be bored meeting someone new. There's a whole like depth and layer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you find anything on like the impact of these movies for like?
So it was really interesting to hear like his interviews, like talking about just like filmmaking in general. So I think there must have been this like censorship going on in the Eastern European cinema because I guess I'm assuming that means like there's certain topics that they couldn't talk about, or I don't know. But he was saying how like there's these like mixed reactions. Like some people say censorship is good, some people say bad. But what ended up happening, the effects of censorship in the Eastern European cinema was it forced people to search for possibilities that they didn't know like existed before, because like they have to work around a limitation, which made me think about my first creative class in college. The first like lesson we had basically was like limitation is like the birthplace for creativity. So I thought that was really interesting, and even like the idea of like limiting to a certain color palette. And like how like I wonder how like that flourished into like, okay, like we're gonna do a movie on blue, so like how can we like limit it, but like how can we like, I don't know, that creative process sounded so like interesting to me. And then he was going into this like Polish way of making films, which was, it happens in like these like specific phases that you like sign a contract. So like the first contract, you write down the theme, and then no details, no characters. Just like you're like writing down the theme of the story. And then if that passes, it goes into the second stage, which is a treatment that's like 20 pages, 30 pages long, with action, with character, like how much. And then he will write like several versions of this. And then if that passes, then it goes into the third phase, which is the screenplay, with a shot list, which was interesting to me. I was like, like, because usually a shot list in the US at least, like, doesn't really have like, the screenplay, I mean, doesn't have like camera directions, but
Yeah.
apparently in the Polish screenwriting process you do. And then he was just talking about how like being able to like get paid for each of these phases, or just like how like you pass one phase and then it goes to the next and then it goes to the next. Like he knew that like there was this specific pattern that like made the project happen. And how like he continued this way when he went abroad. He was talking about how Godard says like you don't need to do things in order, but he didn't agree, which was funny.
Interesting.
But yeah.
So then in their process, so let's say you do the theme and then they're like, okay, you can go to the next part. Like, can you do like 2 or 3 steps and then they're like, sorry, we're not going to make this movie or something? Or is it
I'm
like,
sure that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
It's like the idea of like a project being greenlit, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Hollywood. And then he was talking about how he wants to see the whole movie as soon as possible instead of seeing it in fragments. So like as he shoots, he will start editing, and then like, I mean, this happens
wow.
even now in like feature filmmaking, but like there will be someone like actively editing it together. So by the end of the shoot, you basically have like, you know, the first draft. So you can like watch the whole film, and then if there are some missing pieces, like they'll reshoot something, which probably what happened with White when they added that last scene.
They were like, it's missing something.
right, yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. And then he went into talking about how like he says that the 3 most important phases of filmmaking is casting, screenplay, and editing. And how like in the phases of editing, he feels so free because there's no freedom on the shooting days. Like there's like people to work through, weather to work through. Like there's so many logistics to go through.
Yeah.
But like when you're writing screenplay, you're free. You can do whatever. Shooting process, it's pretty like tight. And then like going back to editing, he feels free again. 'Cause you can see like you can really like make a whole different like movie with the way you edit, but the most important is casting. And he was touching into like even like for Blue, if Juliet, the main character, was not going to say yes to the film, he didn't like want to shoot the film.
Wow.
It was like that important. And she had an offer to work on Jurassic World at the same time. So it was
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
This came out in the 90s.
Jurassic Park.
Very forward offer. We're going to make a movie in 2014.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
And like she had to choose, but like she felt connected to the story of Blue, so she chose that.
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
That's kind of crazy. I wonder like how that would have changed careers, because obviously
Right.
like this is pretty critically regarded, but Jurassic Park, like everyone would have known who
Huge.
you are, you know?
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, like as an actor, to make a choice like that. Although I don't know if you get an offer for Jurassic Park and you know what it's going to become at that
Right.
time either,
Right.
but
We don't know.
You're probably not thinking that it's going to become Jurassic Park, but it's like
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg. Like it's like you probably think that it's going to be like
that's
pretty
so
big.
interesting though.
Something.
Yeah.
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 Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I love what we're doing.
Yes.
I feel like it's giving at least me an opportunity to actually make time for these films that I've been wanting to watch and like taking the time to do the research, which kind of feels like school. Which is, I love education, but writing a research paper was not my favorite part. And I feel like I'm still like learning our groove as a podcast.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And even this like give you a report style. But I'm very grateful. And I hope that like obviously we didn't cover a lot and there's so much more depth into the movies and
Right.
the like creators of these. But if it's like just enough that like the listener will be intrigued by the film or like intrigued by the director and like they
Yeah.
want to watch the movie themselves or
Yeah.
like look into it themselves, that would be like amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you look into it more though to know, because I wouldn't have known at all about that whole liberty equality.
Yeah.
And that makes me think about the movies a lot differently.
Definitely.
Or definitely more deeper than what I
Yeah.
was going.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like all the time, I think it's easy to watch a movie and forget or not really realize how intentional every decision is.
Yeah.
And it really is, like, so many movies are like that. Any chance that I get to listen to a director talk about their movie or a writer talk about you realize how everything, like every detail is really so thought out. And so, like, every scene, there's not a moment that's just like, oh, we're just going to do this because why? You know, it's every movement, like where someone is standing, and it is so crazy. So you bringing that in, like, is making me think more about just how every decision, and not all of them I'm gonna necessarily understand, but you're gonna watch it more intently and you're going to ask questions about it and you're going to think more about what you're watching when you realize, oh, why did they choose to do that? You know, because everything is a choice that they're making. So.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. If you were to recommend, and you were actually the only one who watched all three of them, but all the way through, but if you were to recommend one of the movies, which one would it be?
I would recommend White if I was recommending
White was
one.
so much
I
fun.
think too, because that one I think is more, what's the word?
Accessible?
Accessible is the word.
Oh, yeah.
I think that one it could be more like
Thanks, Michael.
widely enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think definitely Blue felt kind of more like art house,
Artsy,
kind of
yeah.
like art, you know, and it is, you know, it's like a slow burn kind of drama. And so I think people can get more into White and because it's fun too, and because it's a little bit like suspenseful.
Definitely,
and
yeah.
So I need to finish Red because that's the one that's the most acclaimed, right?
Yes,
Of the
yes.
three.
And
So-
it's fun to just see, like, at the end, like, it's the third movie you're watching,
Yeah.
and how, like, the other two movie gets integrated into two.
Can you, I mean, I don't know if you would mind knowing, but I want to know.
I don't want to know. I wanna
Okay,
watch it.
okay.
But I would honestly, I would recommend all three.
Yeah.
Because
it
I think
works
they're
together.
all really great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they are connected. But if you're just gonna watch one of them, I think White for sure.
White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen of Red, it's a kind of a happy medium, I think, between the
Right.
two, between art house and kind of just
Yeah.
popcorn movie.
Yeah, thrillery, kind
Yeah.
of whatever.
And I feel like I am not completely aware of, like, the history, the actual history of, like, you know, each of these countries, but like what like the French flag meant and like the radicalness, and like I think that also had an effect in like how, like, the way they shot these films being so like precise was radical in like trying to shoot it like that. So
Like it's the specific style of shooting was like not very common to French films at the time. Is that what you're saying?
or just like films in general, I think to have this like trilogy where like it's themed by color.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
It's
can't think of
connected.
another movie that is so intentional. Like, you see the title is Red, and it's like, oh, everything is red.
There's so
And
much
it's
red,
There's
yeah.
so much red.
Yeah.
And like the set design of everything too is so great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd like to finish Red too, but because I was enjoying it, but I definitely really enjoyed White. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Should we?
Bumping mics. Well, can't wait for another episode with you guys.
Everyone go watch White.
Yes. Yes.
Watch all three.
If you like being entertained.
Watch some interviews.
Yes, that too. Yeah, sweet.
Cool.
we
Thank
close it?
you.
That was
Bye.
3 colors, and the rest is film history.
Oh,
Yay, you worked the title in.
so good. Bye.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.